Good day, Lou and Unbox Therapy team. What is your stereotype on Australia? What kind of people do you assume we are? I've asked many people, and I find it fascinating seeing how people who aren't Australian perceive us. Wow. That is a question that'll make you think. I think Australians are pretty nice people. I know an Australian. I've known a couple Australians.
Have you been to Australia?
I've never been there. That's a long flight.
It's kind of like Canada, weather-wise. Like
The
sunny,
Canadian comparison comes
hot.
out a lot. I hear Australians say that, and I know when Australians come here. And also, my cousin spent a bunch of time in Australia and said something similar. That it's kind of a Canadian vibe. Yes, we're speaking English, but we're not American, which automatically creates some synergy there. A similar type of experience. The like English speaking, not American, it's like the Canada, UK, Australia camp. But then they got the accent going on. We mostly just have an American accent, though some people have more of a Canadian accent. There is a Canadian accent out there. But the Australian accent, that's a whole thing. In New Zealand as well. So I know Australians like to play rugby. Right? They like to play. Am I stereotyping? I mean, I don't know. They have good rugby teams. Jeez, man.
No.
Or is it Australian rules football? All right. So, geez, man, relax. Shrimp on the Barbie. It's all the Crocodile Dundee. These things are so offensive. That's just like the Australia that came here at one point. What else? How about this? I know Australians like coffee. And I know Starbucks didn't do as well as they expected in Australia when they expanded there because the coffee culture that was there, they didn't really fully grasp how sophisticated coffee drinkers are in Australia. Cafes and stuff, it's all built out really well. Apparently this has to do with migration once upon a time from Europeans, specifically Italians and Greeks, to Australia. How about that for a little tidbit? Jack, you didn't expect that. Okay, so Starbucks had to pull back. In fact, they had to close a bunch of stores in Australia because I think I maybe even watched that clip right there, why Starbucks failed in Australia. Very interesting. It's a different market in that sense. Like Starbucks came to Canada and just forget about it. It was like America 2.0 for them in terms of success. Not so much in Australia. They closed 2/3 of their stores. They did not understand the culture. I know as well, Australia has some really nice places. My cousin, for example, he stayed in Brisbane, Gold Coast area, beaches, condos, very Miami Vice type of situation going on. So you can have that lifestyle if you live there as well. Ultimately, it's a giant country, sparsely populated. That's a very Canadian thing as well. You got a few cities, and most of the population is distributed amongst them. But I wouldn't hate visiting. I'm sure I would I'd fit right in. Beyond the accent, I'd fit right in. Shrimp and the whole thing. Crocodile Dundee, all of it. Mad Max. Mel Gibson. This is so stereotypical. It's disgusting. I like the Starbucks tidbit more. I love Australia. I don't know when I'm coming, but I love it. And I like that they started with good day. You see that, Jack? Just to get the point across in case you didn't know. Surfing. Sharks.
Now you're just naming things.
I'm just naming things that... what kind of people do I assume you are? Hardy people, you know? Good character, I should hope. Nice. Polite. That lady didn't look as polite. She's yelling, but she's a politician. She says politics is toxic for Australian women. Don't click on that, Will. We're not taking it there. We're not taking it there. Capital city, Canberra. I knew that. Diverse, right? People came from all over the place to also migrate for a lifestyle in Australia. Australia, the only country which is also a continent. You see? I think the people are a lot like Canadians. I think the people are pretty cool based on my experience up until this point. So shout out Australia. One more question, Will.